So, for example, a status is like what I am. Like, I'm a student, I'm a daughter, I'm a Kenyan American. And then with each of those statuses, I have roles. Like, my role as a student is to study and work hard and maintain a social life, you know? So, I want you guys to be thinking of your different statuses and roles, the ones that you were born with and the ones that you achieved throughout your life. And I'm going to ask, so you better be ready. And I'm going to talk about how those fit into being a woman. So the title of my talk today is 21st Century Machine. It's a song. When I first told my mom that was the title of my talk, she literally just said, "What a curious title," and moved on. But the song starts like this. It says, "People on the airwaves always preach who I should be, how to dress, how to talk, baby, how to breathe. Wicked artists use their limber fingers to paint pictures of what young girls are to aspire to be." In some way, shape, or form, we're all young. My mom always tells me that she feels 20 every single day of her life, and sometimes she looks in the mirror and she realizes that she's not. But I also feel 12 every day of my life, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, wow, I'm really 19. So whatever young is to you, you are young. And as a woman, there's always going to be some form of media or society that's trying to tell you how you should be as that young woman. Whether you should be educated or you should be lovely, you should be beautiful, you should have this figure, you should be happy, you should have the sunny disposition, you should be a mother, you should be a student. There's all these different roles that people want us to take on, and it kind of leaves us wondering, where do I fit into what you want me to be, you know? So, for my curious title, I wanted to talk about being a woman, which I think is a curious thing to be. In your teen years, in your 20-somethings, in middle age, and so forth, it's always curious. There are always expectations and standards and roles that we are meant to assume, trends that we are meant to shift and change with, responsibilities and crosses that we are meant to bear, siblings of which we are responsible, duties and jobs of which we're going to be held accountable, and as a woman, there's a weight of emotional, financial, intellectual, and even interpersonal literacy that we are meant to achieve at all times, while remaining beautiful and sunny. And some days I don't feel beautiful. And some days I know you are not sunny. And that's okay. I realize it more and more every day as I get older. The more I grow into the woman that I'm becoming, who's modeled after the women I've seen in my life. I walk around campus in my mother's shoes. Not actually. She wears a 10 and I wear an 8. But I wear her dresses from her 20s and I wear her leather jacket. And I feel myself being the girl that she was in the time that I am right now. I talk on the phone with my sister for hours. I don't do it every day or as much as I should, but I do it just like my mom does, and I laugh very loud in public, a little too loud, like most women do. But the woman that I want to talk to you guys about today is Martha. Well, we're going to be talking about Mary and Martha, but I love Martha, so we're going to be talking about her. I didn't give anyone slides today, so we're all going to be responsible for pulling out our Bibles and turning to Luke 10, verses 38 through 42. I'll give you a moment to get there. Just give me a thumbs up. Luke 10, verses 38 through 42. All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up in the room. So, it says, as Jesus, I don't really know what version I'm using, I just liked it because it was very simple and I felt it was easy to grasp. So, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Whenever I read this story as a child, I was like, boo, Martha, silly Martha. Jesus is right there, Martha. He's knocking at your door, Martha. Why aren't you answering? Yay, Mary, she's listening to Jesus. But as I read the passage again last year, I developed a heart for Martha. How many of you again said that you were mothers? You're Martha. My mom is Martha. Your mom is Martha. If you want to be a mom, you're going to end up Martha. How many of you are sisters? You're also Martha. And if you're a daughter, which we all are, you are definitely Martha. Even Mary, at some point in her life, found herself in the same position that Martha is. Because what was she doing? She was cleaning up the house. She was creating food, making sure everyone was happy and comfortable. When people are coming over to my house, like for example, last night, all my mom's sisters got into town. First of all, I came into town last night. I got here. My mom wasn't even home because she was here, busy setting up for this. She works so hard, you guys. And I came home, and all my favorite foods are already cooked and on the stove, and they're ready for me because she knows what I like to eat, and she loves me, so she makes it for me, you know? So all her sisters are home, and, her sisters are here, and their husbands, and my cousins are here. And where are all of them? My mom, her sisters, they're in the kitchen. The food is already made, but they're still putting it into serving trays. They're sitting in the kitchen, they're laughing, they're talking with one another. They're acting like Martha, because although they're doing it out of love for us, it is still work. And it's not to diss on, the kids or the husbands or anything like that. But as a woman, when you're trying to make sure that everyone around you is comfortable, that's still a form of work. And it got me thinking that Martha didn't love Jesus any less than Mary did. She wasn't any less excited and honored and humbled that Jesus was in her home like Mary was. She was just expressing it in a different way. She was trying to make a place for the Messiah to be comfortable, for him to teach and comfort, for other people to receive his teachings and comfort. But in doing so, she did not make a space for her to receive his teachings and comfort. It makes sense? In any other context than Jesus being right in front of her, in any other context than Jesus saying, "Daughter, sit down, sit at my feet, listen to me," Martha would have been doing exactly what's expected, and Mary would be the villain in the story. They'd be like, "Mary, what are you doing? There's all these people in your home, and you are just sitting around. You're not helping. You're lazy at best and neglectful of your guests at worst." But in this story, she gets all the praise. And that's all right. Because it's not anything that Martha did wrong, and it's really not anything that Mary did wrong. It's just that what Martha did was good, and what Mary did was better. That's what Jesus says. But that was not good enough for me. When I read this story, I was a different type of livid. I was upset because I had started to feel like Martha. That feeling that I thought was resigned to only mothers, only women of a certain age, it was crippling my 18-year-old heart. When Martha said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." I heard, "Mom, it's Kayleen's turn to wash the bathroom. Make her do it." And do you know what? My mom makes her do it. But Jesus said, what Mary has done is what is better. Martha, in typical fashion, was just trying to serve, make sure everyone around her was happy, and she did not understand why this wasn't leading her to the praise that it usually should. "Oh, you Proverbs 31 woman, you wonderful woman, you." Instead, it was leaving her to be receiving this great scolding from Jesus. And it wasn't meant to be a scolding. It was meant to be an acknowledgement, really. He's like, "I'm seeing what you're doing. I'm seeing what you're doing for me. I'm seeing what you're doing for the kingdom. But that's not what I'm requiring of you. There's only one thing I'm requiring of you. It's not to be pious and lonely." A lot of the times I think we think humility is all about borderline debasing ourselves, putting ourselves way at the bottom so that everyone else can step on our backs to climb up. I always talk about my parents making their ceiling my floor. The highest point in which that they will achieve in their life is the place I'm going to put my feet just so I can look higher, But we don't our ceiling is not everybody's floor. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to reach. It's okay to take a step back, do the thing that's good for you in the moment so that you can receive the next blessing, So, I'm not telling you to always cook and clean and not receive things. And I'm not telling you to be the treasurer when you know you're doing the work of a president. In fact, I'm telling you to do the opposite. If you know you should be president, be president. If you know you should be a doctor, be a doctor. If you know that you have a bachelor and you need a master's, go get your master's, And if you know that you're not getting recognition that you need to seek it out. In verse 41, Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one. Kayleen, what's her role in your life?
Student body representative.
She's student body representative. Okay, what's one of the jobs that you have as a student body representative?
Plan ways to make the school a more comfortable and loving environment.
Beautiful. And how do you do that?
Having meetings every week, discussing problems with the rest of the representatives, and talking to our advisor on ways that we can implement strategies to bring the school closer together and bring our focus back to God.
You're amazing. And you do that because you're student body representative, right? You do that because you have the title of student body representative. You're not going to do that as somebody who's not on SLA. That's not your job. Autumn, what's one of your roles?
Administrative assistant.
What do you do as an administrative assistant?
Respond to emails, hire people, schedule.
Right. Now, if you were CEO, would all those be your job?
Not all.
Right, because you have someone to do it. So, I'm asking us to all take a moment to think, what are our statuses in this life? What are the roles that we need to do to accomplish those statuses? And what things are we doing that we don't need to be doing? Those are somebody else's job to do. How are we taking on other people's burdens in a way that is keeping us from receiving the next blessing? Because all that is energy that we're pouring out into things. We could pour it out into God's word. We could pour it out into getting our next degree. We could pour it out into creating better interpersonal relationships with the people around us. But if we're saying yes to every double, if we're never telling our boss that we need a break, how are we going to have any momentum, any time, any energy for growth? There is somebody who sees us. Jesus saw Martha in her struggling to make sure everything is together. He sees us, and he doesn't require us to do this, that, the third to earn his love. He has one requirement. I know you're thinking, Julie, just tell us what it is. Just sit at his feet. Allow him to whisper his sweet, sweet words into you. Allow him to love you. Allow him to care for you. Allow him to meet you where you are and pick you up. Jesus doesn't have a ceiling, but he can elevate our floors, you know? That is the point. Mary took her break, and she was rewarded. She was poured into. Her soul was fed. You can take your break, and you can be rewarded for it. It's not work, no play. There's a time for everything. And yes, there's your time. There's the 9 to 5 to work. But what are you doing in your 5 to 9? Who are you spending your time with outside? Are you spending it outside with people who are draining you, who are exhausting you, who are requiring you to work for them? Friends who make you small so they can be big. People who don't see your value, they don't see your worth. Are you pouring it into clubs that are taking your joy? They're stealing your time, your effort. It's okay to say no. You can tell your husband it's your turn to cook. You can tell your kids, we are eating McDonald's tonight. You can leave that assignment that is stressing you until tomorrow. My junior year of high school, I took AP Chemistry. That class terrorized me and my entire family. My teacher would blow me off when I would ask for help. He'd say, you're doing fine in the class, and I knew I wasn't. I'd pull all-nighters studying and be stuck on the same problems for hours or even days. It didn't matter if I watched every YouTube tutorial, watched every tutoring session, it just did not help. So one night I came down the stairs around 11 p.m. crying, and I mean sobbing, incoherent. I was complaining to my parents about chem, my teacher, my grades. I was probably averaging D's on the homework assignments at this point. And my mom and dad were like, okay, go to bed. I was livid. I was like, what do you mean go to bed? I was like, I don't want to go to bed. I want to pass the class. And they were like, well, we can't help you with this homework. You can't help you with this homework. So you're either going to fail the assignment on 3 hours of sleep or you're going to fail the assignment on 8 hours of sleep. And you know what? I slept good that night. The next day, I did in fact fail the assignment, but my parents got me a tutor. And I worked with that tutor probably twice a week for like 3 hours. And his only focus was me. So he figured out how I learned best, and I started understanding chemistry. I ended the class with an A, and I graduated salutatorian in my class, so it obviously wasn't that bad. And now I'm a sophomore in college studying organic chemistry. Whoa! But the point is that I never could have passed that class if I didn't ask my parents for help, if I didn't break down, if I did not sit at their feet and tell them what I needed. I never would have passed that class. Without somebody that you confide in, somebody that you trust, without you sitting at somebody's feet and allowing them to pour into you, that tutor was a resource I never could have gotten on my own. But because I sat at my mom and my dad's feet and I was like, please, they got me that tutor. There is help that you need, and it comes from Jesus. It's only coming from him. Your friend is not going to get it for you. It's not until you sit at Jesus' feet and you ask him to pour that thing that you need so desperately, whether it's a promotion, whether it's a car, whether it's confidence, anything it is, you're going to have to sit at his feet and ask him for it. And he is more than willing to provide. They got me that tutor with a smile on their face. And they watched me give my speech at graduation with a bigger smile on their face. The Lord is a good, good father, and he likes to reward, he likes to give, he likes to pour out his love onto his daughters, his sons as well, but his daughters today. We want to serve other people selflessly, and we should, and that is good. But the inability to remove yourself from unnecessary stress, the inability to advocate for yourself, is keeping you from what can be the best. You can serve selflessly, and you can sit at Jesus' feet and ask him to pour into you. And that way you can serve selflessly again, and you can be poured into again. Amen. If you're operating from a place of emptiness, you're going to be striving. You're going to run on empty. Have you ever tried to run fasted? I like to run. Sometimes I run in the morning. If I run without eating, that's the worst run I've ever been on. If I run when I'm full, I'll be good. I'll go fast. I'll go far. If you operate from a place of striving, you're not going to succeed. You're going to fail. But when you allow Jesus to pour into you, he never runs out of things to give. You're operating from a place of abundance. And from that place of abundance, you can succeed. You can thrive. You can start businesses. You can get degrees. You can find yourself in the happiest place of your life. But that's only after you sit at Jesus' feet. Martha was so determined to serve Jesus that she was distracted from Jesus. Don't let that be your testimony. Mary was content to sit at Jesus' feet and be poured into. And by taking that moment for herself, outside of the expectations that had been placed before her by society, she was able to reach her best thing. She was able to do the one thing that God required of her. And a lot of the times that one thing that God is requiring from you is outside of the culture. It's outside of what society is telling you that you need to be. People on the airwaves, they can tell you day in and day out how they think you should act, how they think you should look. But God says, I'm requiring one thing of you. And if you get that one thing, you'll be the best. Amen. That's it.
Let's give it up for Julie one more time. Let's give it up for Julie one more time. One more time. Thank you so much, Julie.